So, phylum terminal is nothing but the extension of pia mater, which you can see here, extending from conus medullaris. Okay, then it is extending downwards. So, if it is covered with dura, we call it as phylum terminal internum. And if it is not covered with dura, as you can see here, this whole outline is actually dura mater, isn't it? It's not covered with dura, you call it as phylum terminal externum. Overall, its length is how much? 20 centimeters. Okay. Internum is 15 centimeters
15.
and externum is 5 centimeters. Okay. And we know like subarachnoid space is filled with CSF, cerebrospinal fluid. Okay. Then, so do you remember I told you like something like cerebellopontine cistern when we were doing fourth ventricle?
Ventricle.
That means cisterns means what? The area where we have
Crypta magna.
Cisterna magna. The space
Cisterna
where,
magna.
that means the space where which is enclosing more amount of CSF. Similarly, we have one more space which is situated in the lumbar region. You call it as lumbar system. Okay. So the subarachnoid space around the phylum terminal becomes like it is somewhat roomy and it is like collecting more amount of CSF. Okay. So that's the reason you call it as lumbar system. Okay. So this is the procedure of lumbar puncture we generally do. Okay, the most preferred site is interspinous space between L3 and L4.
Ma'am, can we see lumbar system?
We can't feel better. It's only an imaginary plane. We know like till L1 the spinal cord is ending. Okay. Now here you are trying to insert needle between L3 and L4. Okay. And the needle also should be like superficial only. It should pierce only the subarachnoid space. Because in the subarachnoid space we have the CSF. Should be very, very careful. Okay. So we are choosing now here only pia mater and CSF is there. Actually, when you compare with the other areas, this is a safer place where we do not have any nerves coming out from there. Okay. So where do we get generally this plane between L3, L4? See an imaginary line joining the highest point of iliac crest. This iliac crest and this iliac crest. That joining point is nothing but the place where we can choose it as L3, L4, and we should be careful to enter only to the subarachnoid space to collect CSF. Okay, so that is. Spinal anesthesia and drugs also can be injected in this route. Okay.
Why do we do lumbar puncture, ma'am?
If there is any infection in the brain, like in case of meningitis, in case of encephalitis, or if there is any bleeding, okay, in the brain, then CSF will be, different colors will be there. The normal CSF will be pure white in color like water. But if there is any infection based on underlying infection, the CSF color and consistency will change. For example, in case of tuberculosis, it becomes cobweb like, spider web like. Okay. In case of some other infections like fungal infections, it can be greenish. In case of cerebral hemorrhages, it can be reddish because of bleeding. Okay. So in case of lumbar puncture, whatever tissue is being like pierced, it's listed here, not so much required. Okay. What are the various modifications of pia mater we have? So one is phylum terminal, which itself can come as a 3 marks question, which I have discussed just now. We also have extensions of pia mater, which are called as ligamentum denticulator. We have a midline thickening of pia mater, which is called as linea splendens and subarachnoid septum. You can see phylum terminal, already I told you it's around 20 centimeters, and the one which is inside is internal and the one which is outside dura mater is external. Okay, so this is subarachnoid septum in the middle. Okay, this is one more modification of pia mater. Okay, then linea splendens is median glistening line made up of pia mater, located on ventral surface. On the midline again you will find this anterior medial fissure. Okay, ligamentum denticulatum. This itself can be again a 3 marks question. So are you finding these thickenings here? These are actually the modifications of pia mater only. Okay. So two transparent like ribbon like thickened bands you are finding on either side. Okay. So if you just count throughout the length of spinal cord, that is 45 centimeters, we will find 21 such pairs on either side. Okay, so they are extending laterally between the anterior. See, suppose this is the spinal nerve. We have this is the posterior root and this is the anterior root. How to identify posterior root? With the help of dorsal root ganglion. So between these two roots, you will find this diameter extensions. 21 such pairs we are finding on either side. You call them as ligamentum denticulatum. Okay. And external features of spinal cord, we have certain fissures and sulci. So we have anterior median fissure and posterior median sulcus. So we have on either side the attachments of spinal nerves. We have two enlargements also. What are those? Cervical and lumbar enlargements in colloid. See, anterior median fissure is also called as ventral median fissure, posterior median sulcus, and this is completely the gray matter. So gray matter is situated inside and white matter is situated outside. This is quite opposite to what we have seen with cerebrum. In the cerebral cortex, we have seen gray matter outside and white matter inside, isn't it? But here you are finding gray matter inside, white matter outside. This is the central canal. What is the purpose of central canal?
Spinal cord passes through.
This whole thing is spinal cord only, no MR.
Sorry.
Yeah. CSF.
Yes, sorry. Okay.
Okay. Then see, now coming to spinal nerves, this whole thing is spinal cord, isn't it? So it is extending till L1, isn't it? Lower border of L1. So how many pairs of spinal nerves are coming?
31.
Yeah, 31 pairs. So out of which we have cervical 8. Now if you observe from this picture, generally the spinal nerves are coming so below the respective intervertebral foramen, but for in case of C1, it is coming above the C1 vertebra. That's how if you count, we have 8 cervical nerves. Okay, thoracic are 12. They are all coming out through their respective intervertebral foraminae. For C1, it is like at foramen magnum level, you are finding C1 is coming. Above, that means foramen magnum and above the upper border of the C1 vertebra, we find C1 coming. So overall, we have 8 cervical nerves. Thoracic, same like as many vertebra we have, so many nerves we have. 12 pairs of thoracic, 5 pairs of lumbar, 5 pairs of sacral. I told you sacrum bone is formed by the fusion of 5 sacral vertebra. That's how we have 5 pairs of sacral nerves and 1 coccygeal. If you just make a grand total of this, it comes to around 31 pairs of spinal nerves. Okay. Now coming to this cross section of spinal cord, we have white matter outside and gray matter inside, and this is the central canal. So we have anterior median fissure and posterior median sulcus. This is anterior horn and this is the posterior horn, and this is the intermediate area. Intermediate area will be very well defined in the thoracic region. Okay, we will see the different areas also. It's completely white matter, and we know like spinal nerve is a mixed nerve, and the spinal nerve is receiving sensory information through this dorsal root, and the motor information is conveyed via the ventral. Okay, that is the formation of spinal nerve. So these are the attachments of spinal nerves, you can see. Spinal segments I have told you in my previous slide, third or fourth slide we discussed. Then these are the enlargements of the spinal cord. So in the neck region, we have one enlargement, that is cervical enlargement for the formation of brachial plexus. We find one more enlargement in the lumbar region, that is for the lumbar plexus. Okay, cervical brachial plexus is to supply upper limb, and lumbar plexus is to supply for the purpose of lower limb. So cauda equina is nothing but, equina means horse tail, it is ponytail, it looks like. Okay, that's why the word. So that means the bundle of nerves, the bunch of nerves which are attached to the conus medullaris, all of them should travel to some extent and they should come out through their respective intervertebral foraminae. That's the reason they are initially at L1 level, they all look like bunch. That's what is called as cauda equina. A large subarachnoid space surrounds the phylum terminale internum. the side where you are also taking the collection of CSF by doing lumbar puncture. We can also inject drugs in the subarachnoid space. Internal structure I already told you. There's anterior horn, posterior horn, intermediate horn in case of the thoracic part of spinal cord. This internal part is the gray matter and outside part is the white matter. Okay. Notice. So I was telling you, like I will show you like different parts here you are finding. So what are these? See, this is like it looks like little wider, no? Where is this section taken? In the cervical part. That means this part is actually indicating the cervical enlargement. Compare, if you see comparatively, thoracic part is not so wider, isn't it? Whereas in the thoracic part, you are finding intermediate horn also. Intermediate horn in case of gray matter. Okay, but then see, these are the different levels what we have taken the section of spinal cord. Okay. So this is, so these are the various nuclei what we see in the gray matter. Okay. Okay. So what are the various nuclei you are finding? So now, see, all these nuclei are actually important in physiology when we study tracts of spinal cord. Okay, ascending and descending tracts will generally start from any of these nuclei. Okay, what are the various nuclei we have? Like ventrolateral, accessory nucleus, but still you practice this. Okay, all these nuclei, posterior marginal nucleus, substantia, gelatinosa, prolando, nucleus proprius. Okay, so these are all the nuclei what we see in the gray matter of spinal cord. Apart from that, the other way we classify, we also call, like divide it in the form of laminate. Okay, so this gray matter, lamina 1, 2, 3. This is called as lamina of Rex. Okay, so we have such 10 laminate which are coming in all order, numerical order, and they are represented in Roman numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, then this one is 8, 9, and around the central canal we have lamina 9. Instead of
It is called
laminate,
lamina of what now?
Rex, R-E-X,
Okay.
Rex.
Okay.
Lamina of Rex. I told you when we were discussing physiology.
Okay.
Okay, beta, so this is, so we classify in two ways. Okay, but laminae generally we don't take into consideration, though you generally consider from the nucleus. All these are laminae. A special type of stain has been used. So in lamina 1, which nucleus is there? Posterior marginal nucleus. Lamina 2, substantia gelatinosa. 3 and 4, we have nucleus proprius. Like that, we have either we take in the form of lamina or we take in the form of nucleus. Okay. Those are, it's written here. Spelling. Lamina of Rex. Okay, Rex in the sense we are comparing both together. Okay. Now coming to the tracts, we have two different types of tracts, no? Like we have ascending tracts and descending tracts. Ascending tracts are also called as sensory tracts and descending tracts are also called as motor tracts. Because we have finished cerebrum, there we have the primary motor area and also somatosensory area. Primary motor area, we have seen the area number was 4. Somatosensory, the main sensory area was number 312. That means whatever ascending tracts are there, they are going to the sensory area of the cerebral cortex via spinal cord. Okay, like that we have a different picture also. So we have major ascending tracts are spinothalamic, fasciculus gracilis, cuneatus, and spinocerebellar. Major descending tracts we have corticospinal, rubrospinal, and reticulospinal. Rubro means red nucleus. Where do we see? In the midbrain.
Midbrain.
Reticular formation we see throughout the brainstem.
The
Midbrain, pons,
brainstem,
and
yeah.
medulla.
Medulla.
Coming to the blood supply of spinal cord after cross features, we have anterior spinal artery and posterior spinal arteries. So anterior spinal artery is 1 in number and posterior spinal arteries are 2 in number. Okay. And apart from that, we also have segmental arteries. Okay. So these spinal arteries, they actually form radicular arteries. That means they are going inside, they are branching, and they are supplying the spinal cord. See, do you remember, like, this is the thoracic part of the aorta?
Hmm.
This picture I kept when we were doing intercostal arteries, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Isn't it? So now we have different part of the arteries which are making the anterior and posterior spinal arteries based on which place they are present. Now if you go to the picture, like the first picture, now see here. So this is what is this brachiocephalic trunk you are finding, for example. Okay, we have common carotid and then subclavian. Okay, then you are finding the arteries going like this. You remember we have vertebral artery which is running inside the uh, cervical transverse foramina of the cervical vertebra. Okay, that means vertebral artery is contributing for the formation of anterior and posterior spinal arteries in the cervical region. But who has to supply in the thoracic? Nearby intercostal arteries are there, isn't it? Intercostal arteries will be contributing to give anterior and posterior spinal arteries in the thoracic region. Similarly, if you remember, when we were discussing the abdominal aorta, we have discussed about lumbar arteries also, median sacral artery also. That means nearby arteries, which overall spinal cord is 45 centimeters in length, and only vertebral artery cannot take the in charge of supplying everything. So nearby arteries, whichever are there, they are taking part in the formation of anterior and posterior spinal arteries. Okay. Let us see. I hope you got the concept now. Okay. So we have in the anterior part, we have anterior spinal artery, which is only 1 in number. When you see behind, posterior spinal arteries are actually 2 in number. Okay. So in the cervical region, they are derived from vertebral artery. In the thoracic region, they are derived from intercostal arteries. Okay. From the first to 11th intercostal arteries. Okay. So the branches of vertebral, deep cervical, intercostal and lumbar arteries, they contribute these 3 arteries. That means 1 anterior spinal artery and 2 posterior spinal arteries that run throughout the length of spinal cord. Okay. So the anterior spinal artery is larger, that is the midline artery. Okay. It is formed at the foramen magnum by the union of 2, like we have 1 right vertebral artery and 2 left vertebral. Both the arteries, what do they form? You remember basilar artery.
Basilar
Basilar
artery.
artery.
So from there you will see that midline artery will be coming downwards. Okay. Same thing is written here. So the arteries which are going and piercing and supplying the, you call them as, I told you, segmental radicular artery supplies the nerve roots, and about half of them are contributing to the spinal arteries. Okay. 21 pairs of segmental radicular arteries. That means they are corresponding to the spinal nerves. So they are coming from the nearby blood vessels. What are those? Intercostal arteries, lumbar artery, and the vertebral artery. Okay. They will be contributing. All these details are not required. Okay. So correspondingly, we also have veins, isn't it? So these are the spinal veins. So spinal veins, they are draining into vertebral veins in the neck. So the vertebral veins in the neck, they are finally draining into azygous system of veins in the thorax. Okay, lumbar veins in the lumbar region and lateral sacral veins in the sacral region. Okay, so that means nearby veins they are draining into. Finally, the venous blood will come back to, in the upper part it will come back to superior vena cava, and lower part it will come back to inferior vena cava. Okay. Is it better? So after that we will have tracts. So that's not required in anatomy. Okay.
Okay.
So let's see if anything more like applied aspects. Degeneration of spinal cord will be there. In that condition you call it as syringomyelia. Okay. Apart from that, in If you remember, I discussed spina bifida when
Yes,
we were
ma'am.
doing embryology.
Yes, ma'am.
What is spina bifida?
Neural tube defect.
Neural tube. What happens? We have conditions like meningocele and meningomyelocele.
Mm.
What is that? Meningocele is, that means only when meninges are outside, you call it as meningocele. Meningomyelocele means, see, the vertebral arch and the spinous process of vertebra are not fusing, and the spinal cord and also the dura mater is completely lying outside. Okay, so that
What, ma'am?
condition is,
Can you repeat this point, ma'am?
see, basically the spinal cord should be situated inside the vertebral foramen. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so suppose this is the lamina, this is also the lamina. Both of them are fusing to form the spinous process. So suppose the lamina and spinous process are not fusing, what happens?
Mm.
The spinal cord and the covering meninges, both of them will be seen outside the body.
Okay. Mm.
Okay, that condition is called meningomyelocele.
Okay.
Okay, meninges are lying outside, and also the spinal cord is also
Fine.
lying outside.
Lying
Okay,
outside.
beta?
Okay.
So we'll stop here.
Ma'am, yes, ma'am. Those head and neck topics, a few of them you didn't send, ma'am. Can you please send?
You
Like
just
the
list out beta. What topics
whatever
are we
we
covering?
like. Okay, ma'am. Okay,
Okay,
I
that's
already
good.
I'll